Greetings! Isn't it a great day to be a Pokemon trading card game fan? Just like every day. Today I'm excited to bring you my version of the Hops Zacian Ex deck. I've been so excited to play this deck now that TGC Live has rotated. I already have this deck mostly built and real life ready to play when the format properly rotates. In this video, I'm going to go through a kind of overview of how I'm running the deck. I want to touch a little bit deeper on the new cards. I'm going to go through what I think the prize trade is going to be, how the deck kind of runs as an engine, talk about some of the techs I'm running, and then maybe talk about some alternate ways of how I'm going to play the deck. If you want to check it out, I'm going to put it in the description. And then here is just a quick visual of my numbers in case my tabletop version of it moved anything weird around. All right, let's get into it. I'll orient you to my play area here. I have all of the Pokemon, most of what they do, except for some staples that most people should be familiar with. Then I have just quick reminders that with the Hops engine, these things are plus 30s. And that's how the combo works. This is my suspected prize trade or flow of the deck. Here's just Arven showing the strength Arven has in this deck. A bit of an in-game thing, and then around here should be the numbers for all of the items of the deck. So let's get into it. Hops Zacian Ex. I'm not using its second attack, the 240 to 330 attack. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about its 30 to 2, 120 on the bench, depending on combos in play. So the 30 to 120 attack, plus 30 to the bench. Great. Snorlax has that ability that adds 30. Its attack does 140 to base. Only if the ability's turned off. It really is usually base 170, so it could be 170, but it can be turned off, so technically it can be a 140 attack. But it does that 140 to 230, and that 80 damage to itself I forget about. This is like an alternate use case, like if everything else is failing, you'd swing with it. But it is important that if you want to run this deck, you're eventually going to run into a situation where you want to try to swing that 230 with that Snorlax. The great Cram, really living the Lost Box vibes, still using that good Cram attack. This one, that single attach, it's got that 100 to 210. Only if the opponent has 3 to 4 prizes. We'll touch on that in a second in the flow. That's the Maractus. I didn't originally have this DM. A buddy of mine came up to it, and it seems to be brought into other Zacian lists as well that's focused on that damage movements. But it's got a cool ability if it gets knocked out. Only if it gets knocked out, not if it gets attacked. You put 60 damage on the opposing Pokemon. Helps fix the math and helps with this next Pokemon we're going to talk about. Its attack is a 20 and prevents your defending Pokemon from being retreated, which is a great just extra thing to throw in decks that whether it buys you another turn or really if that's the stall to win, that is a win condition in there. Then my favorite inclusion, I don't know if I've seen other people try it out. It's kind of weird. It may not be everyone's favorite way to play this deck, but I just kind of like it. We have Lycanroc. It has this ability where once you evolve it, you can attach 2 spike energies from the discard to it, so it kind of sets itself up. So really only useful in a late game. And it does 40 plus 40 per damage counter on the opponent's Pokemon. You could probably already start to think of how the combo works, but it can do quite a bit of damage depending on how you are playing it. Then you have your 1/1 Dubwool line. You evolve it, it's a gust. That's cool, especially if you're trying to do other supporters at the same time as it. And then your good old Fez for draw, Iron Bundle, for some of that early to mid-game movements, trying to move Pokemon around to get better damage counters, and then a great attacker in the form of Bloodmoon Ursaluna, and then a supporter suite 4/4/4 2. There's a bunch of Gusts in this deck. Might be a thing to take down. Hops bags, that searches your 2 Hops Pokemon. 4/4 for the Stadium and the Band. 4 Spike Energy, 4 Jet. 2 and 3, 2, 1 and 1. This is the list I'm running with right now. For complete transparency, up until yesterday, I had been putting Monkey, Dory, and Dark Energy in the stack because the idea is a little bit extra damage, help the bench spread, and even help the greater attacks with the Lycanroc. But everything one-hit KOs. One of the strengths of the stack is you can really play that one prize game, which I enjoy, but that just means everything gets a one-shot. So unless you're chaining together Lycanroc Spike Energy combos, and if you weren't tracking Spike Energy, if you have Spike Energy attached to a Pokemon and it gets hit, you put 2 damage on the attacking Pokemon. Great synergy with Lycanroc's attack. But other than that, you're not keeping enough damage on your Pokemon. There's no way to self-damage because there's no Frostlass in this, in the way I'm wanting to play it, to make Monkey Dory worth it. And I played a couple games with this list today, and it just felt so much smoother than having to worry about that. So just quick note on, I don't like the Monkey Dories in this specific way to play the deck. Now, if we look at the flow, this is kind of how I see the deck played and how it works out pretty consistently. You want to prize trade to look something like Zacian EX, 90 to 120, soften up with a 30 bench, into a 210, 210 attacks. Those two by itself are enough to finish a 2 prize here, start a 2 prize. If you're getting babies, you start your 2 prize, finish your 2 prize here, or you're setting yourself up for some other big attacks over here. Now, could ebb and flow a bit, as Pokemon games can be, but best case scenario, if you're going against like a setup Dragapult type deck, your Zacian EX is just eating 1 2 prizers to 2 2 prizers, depending how long it takes them to get that knock. So that could just be 2 prizes there, or you're softening something up to finish up with that Cramorant, and you're just getting those punches here. Or, sorry, it could be you're getting some baby setup Pokemon here, or you're getting some baby setup attacker Pokemon here, so one, soften up another one. With all the gust, you're grabbing that Fez, you're grabbing, Rotom V's not a thing, grabbing that Fez or that Squawk, or Latias Free Retreat, Petron EX, you're grabbing all the supporters and you're knocking them out for that middle price trade, and then you're starting a half damage of a Big Mon into that Bloodmoon, Lycanroc or Snorlax. Looking at them by themselves, the damage doesn't seem like crazy output, but because you're going into those 1 prizers, you have the ability to make complete 1 prize boards, which not less and less Pokemon decks can do that. It just means you can achieve great big knockouts, which I really enjoy. I kind of give the offshoot of the Maractus, because this is your, man, I really don't have the pieces I need, or I need them to hit into it to put 60 on it so I can swing into Lycanroc type beats, or you're stalling them out with the attack, which is, I'll reiterate, is a great alternate way to do that. If we talk about damage outputs for the Lycanroc, okay, I'll bring the video back. Here's kind of that damage scaling with the 40 plus 40 per. If it starts out with 1 damage counter and use attack, its finished damage counter would be 90, and then so on and so forth. So if you put on just the 30 from the Zacian EX, the finished is 190, but if you throw on a Spike Energy on the Zacian EX, so you do the 30 on something that's, it's going to come and attack you, it does an attack and it grabs that extra 2 damage, bring it up here, then you Lycanroc it later for 290, that's pretty good. Or it's 6 damage it counters from this, or a 30-30 from a double Zacian EX attack play allows you to Lycanroc it for 340. I still imagine there will be less situations that you'll use this than you'll use the Ursaluna EX. However, I do think it's just a strong alternate way to make your opponent play around it as a threat. Because, I don't know if you all notice this in your games, sometimes the simple threat of playing Spike Energy and having the Rockruff, or even not even calling it a threat, having an out, where you can just evolve, throw on a Counter Gain, throw on an extra energy you have in hand, and it sets itself up, is a strong enough threat where people will have to play around that. they already don't want to hit into the Maractus or don't want to hit into your Pokemon that you've been attaching Spike Energy to, but they'll avoid it harder if they know this is an out you have, and it makes them play a harder game Pokemon. So even the existence of Lycanroc on your board can be enough to throw your opponent off and make them play harder around your setup, which is pretty cool as a just threat. Then I do have Hop Snorlax up here, because if you're just having a bad time of it, you're having trouble finding things setting up, a simple casual attach of an energy while you're swinging Cram, because you didn't have to attach energy to it to swing with a Hop's Choice Band, means that another energy attach, Hop's Choice Band attach, you're swinging 230, which rivals the Ursaluna at attack anyways. It does mean there is not a way to set this up without taking an extra turn, because even with the Counter Gain, you still need 2 hand attachments to swing with it, but it is not a terrible setup because it should always be on your board from the start. I will briefly mention the Counter Gain. I have not tested enough to say yes, Counter Gain is a guaranteed play in this, but because you're playing Lycanroc and because you're playing Bloodmoon Ursaluna, Bloodmoon after a 1 prize game of this means you can be 2 prizes behind, or a Counter Gain can replace the 1 energy you need to be able to swing if they have 2 prizes left, because that's when the Cram turns off, or if you're in a very weird situation where you don't have access to Cram and you want to swing that little bit more damage to your energy and Counter Gain attach. Same thing with the Lycanroc. We know what it evolves to, Spike Energy comes to it. We don't really have an out to search for energy. There will be situations where they have 1 prize left and you're just needing to topple a 2 prizer, or some situation like that where that Counter Gain can be what you need to topple. It's not a guaranteed, hey, this is the way to play it, but I threw it in here for that reason. I really haven't talked about the Rescue Board, but the save on energy, a Rescue Board on a Rockruff or a Wooloo or a Fez to help move things around, because you still have Jet Energy in here, but you don't want to waste retreating on anything. I just wanted to bring that up. And then my final kind of note for the day is Drayton. I like Drayton as a supporter. I did not want to test with it first because there are more popular, more consistent supporters to use, but with the high amount of trainer cards, including like the Stadium, which we currently don't have a way to search for, and Pokemon that are just get that Lycanroc, get that Dubwool, get one of those Pokemons in hand that you can get from the Drayton, it might be a way to play it. It is something I am going to test after this video. I just wanted to show this version of the deck out. So if you want to test, take this and test in your own games. Drayton might be a good, not complete replacement of Iono, but you might do 2 Iono, 2 Drayton, or maybe 2 and 3, getting 3 Draytons in there. The Professor's research is high because it helps draw more cards and helps get spiked energy in the discard if you're trying to go for a mid-game Lycanroc, giving reasons why then the 2 Night Stretchers are there. I don't have another way of retrieving energy or Pokemon from the discard pile other than Night Stretchers. You shouldn't need, because of the numbers you have here, you shouldn't need more than what's presented, but I do think Drayton could be a great tech, or not complete replacement, but a good card to put into the ranks of these supporters. And that is all I have to say about this deck. But what do you think? What do you think about Hop's box in general? What do you think about the Maractus or the more spicy Lycanroc line? What about the Counter Gain and the Drayton? I want to know what you think of this deck. What are you testing? What techs are you trying out? Or do you have just the cracked Metal Energy build that makes Zacian a nice 2-prize deck? I like the versatility and like to see what y'all come up with. Until next time, have a good one.